Hey everyone, in this Civ 6 settings create a new game guide video, I want to walk you through these settings that you'll find from the root menu. So when you're brand new to Civ 6, you may be a bit daunted of what all these things mean and where you should start. If you're brand new to the title, I suggest you have a little look through the tutorial system here, which is pretty decent, and it'll walk you through some of the key concepts of the game. Now, if you've gone through that and you want to play your first game, what you want to be looking at here is the single player, and this is what we're really going to focus on in this guide. So what we're looking on here is this create game area, but when you come into here, what's confusing is you've got play now, scenarios, and create game. And play now and scenarios are games that are already set up to get you quickly into the action, but what I don't like about that is you're not quite sure what on earth has been set up, so it's a little bit confusing. So play now, like it says, is you're playing on a small continents map with random leaders, so you're just throwing in without doing any choices at all. Scenarios is a specific scenario that you're thrown into, a unique experience with specific rules, leaders and goals. Again, as a brand new player, I don't think these are great for you. They are quite nice if you want to mix it up in the future or you just want to play quickly. But I suggest you go with create game, which is what we're going to walk through here with the settings. Now, if you're looking at Civ 6 in 2024, the game has been around since 2016, so a long time of development, and a few expansions and additional leaders have come out. And you may already own the Civilization 6 Anthology, and if so, you will have expansions here. So you can see we've got Gathering Storm, Rise and Fall, and Standard Rules. Now, if you hover over each of these, it'll tell you what that'll add, so that you can see this one says it adds the World Congress, environmental effects and disasters, power, and more. Can you deal with the unpredictability of a changing world to make civilization that would stand the test of time? Now, that's quite interesting, but it is yet more variables on a brand new player. So if you are brand new, I would look at this with caution. Same with Rise and Fall. You can see that includes the Great Ages, Royalty, Governors, and Emergencies. Again, that's more stuff to manage. So these are great for players that are already used to Civilization 6, but if you're not, you might want to have these off to begin with. And for you, my friends, that would be the Standard Rules option here. So that's the one I would suggest as a brand new player. The next thing you've got is the game difficulty, and if we click on this, we can see these different things here. Actually, the one afterwards, sorry, this was in the way, is the choose civilization. Let's talk about that first. So you can see we can go with random leader from pool 1 or pool 2, or you can pick a leader. And the leaders, they tend to give a different game experience, and if we have a little look at these as we go through, you'll see little things that these do. So you can see Alexander, it says cities do not incur war weariness. Now, if you're interested in a domination type victory where you're going to go and attack everyone, go to war a lot, Alexander can be a great choice for that. But a more peaceful ruler like, say, Gandhi would not be such a good choice for that. So if we have a little look at, where's he gone? Where's Gandhi? There he is. So he would be better for if you were interested in going after a religious victory. So you can see he gets 5 faith for each civilization they've met. And all sorts of things around there, so he's going to be quite cool for that one. It doesn't mean you're stuck with that particular goal, but you may find that they sort of lean towards a specific thing. So you can see here Abraham Lincoln. You'll also find unique units by the leader, so such as the P-51 Mustang, so an atomic era air unit that replaces the fighter. Next, we've got the game difficulty, and this varies between settler and deity. You can go with any of these here, and I think the default is Dixon is Prince. So if it's your first game, I suggest you ramp this right down. Maybe Chieftain would be, a slight challenge, but get you used to the controls, or even settler if you are, really worried about the difficulty. So that's that one. Now, the game speed, you've got different ones, and Civ is a game that takes quite some hours to play through. So standard, and depending on the map size you pick, it will take a long time to play, like dozens and dozens of hours. If you can speed that up by going to quick, so that would be 33% faster, and also setting a smaller map with fewer opponents. You can also go to online, but this is more if you're going to do multiplayer, so it doubles the speed game use. So you go with any of those. Typically, I will play it on quick. I think that's a nice balance. So the map type that you've got, if you click on there are all these different map types here. Now, if you go with something like continents, that's quite interesting because as you progress through civilization, you need to discover, sailing and get yourself boats and boats that can go over ocean. But it means that it's quite hard to achieve, for example, a domination victory and find all of your sort of opponents that you need to take over, because they may be spread on individual continents. So if you want to make life a little bit easier, you could go with a map where you've got just one main continent or only one continent, such as the Clover here. It's entirely up to you with that one, but the default one is the continents. The other thing that we've got, which is really important, is the map size. So depending on how big you pick, this is how big that map is to explore. So huge, you can see, would be for 12 players, or you can make it real tiny with 2 players. The smaller the map, the quicker it's going to be to explore, and the quicker it is to beat your opponents. So if we go with tiny, for example, that's only got 4 players on the map, and you'll find that is quite a good challenge. Even tiny though, it can take quite a while to explore everywhere, so bear in mind, like I say, Civ's a big game, so this will take a while even on tiny. So if you're starting out in Civ, I suggest you go with a smaller map just to get used to the controls. Now you've also got these game modes here, so these are additional things that you can put on which are part of the expansion packs, and if you don't have Anthology you may not have all of these things here, but you can see we've got different things we can turn on. Apocalypse mode, which adds natural disasters, larger and more impactful versions of existing disasters, increases the chance of all natural disasters. We've got the Barbarian Clans mode. Standard barbarians have a diverse clans, each with their own terrain and combat preferences. You've got dramatic ages mode, all these things. I'm not going to bore you with them all here, but they are additional things that you can turn on and off. There's even a really interesting one like the zombie defense mode, where the dead rise to wreak havoc among the living. So you've got all sorts of stuff here that you've got. Also disaster intensity, so you can increase the likelihood of disasters, so that's going to apply different challenges to your game. So that's all in there, but you'll see these options here I only show with the expansion Gathering Storms. If I go to standard rules, I've only got a few of those, so you can make things a little bit easier with this. Now before we move on, that's not it. Down the bottom you can get even more sort of tweaking with the tool set that you've got and the setup of these options. So if you click Advanced Setup, this is where we can really sort of delve into how we're going to play. So you can see the map size small here for 6 players. If I move that to tiny, we can see how the players are set up for this. I can even pick the leaders here. So if I say I want to play against, I don't know, I can't even say it, a Manitor, and I could pick another one, but I could say it can be one random one. So if there's leaders that I like to play against, I could do that here. You've got an option here where you can give them different little sort of icons so you can see who they are. You can say, actually, I do want a tiny map, but I only want 3 leaders, or I want a tiny map and I want, more than that. I can have 5 leaders. That's entirely up to you. It just gives you a recommendation, but you can hit those deletes if you want, and the plus is to add whatever you want there. So that's quite cool. We've got the game difficulty that we had before. The start era is something that you can change here. If you don't want to start in ancient times, you can fast forward and go to a different era and change the game that way if you so wish. So some people don't like working through the basic steps of the early game. You can change that if you want. So we talked about the game speed here, so the quick one that we're on. The city-states is a kind of confusing aspect. They're not sort of enemies, as it were. They are individual territories, one city, and you can send envoys to these people to give you some sort of advantage over your opponents. So some might be religious, some might be militaristic, so you can take over their army, or ask to borrow their army, that sort of thing, or you can have them help with culture and all sorts of stuff. So if you're not interested in that, you can turn them off, or if you are interested with that, you turn them on. So you can just move the slider. So if you only want 0 or 1, you can also opt to attack those and destroy them if you want. That's entirely up to you. So the map that we talked about, that's all there as well. Map size, the leader pool. So these are the random leader pools, so you can have from pool 1 and pool 2, like we said before. The resources, you can have standard, sparse, abundant, or random. So resources are really important for building certain units and getting certain luxuries for your citizens to keep them happy. So the more you pump that up, the more the game is a little bit easier or harder, depending on whether you go sparse or abundant or random. That's entirely up to you. Select city-states. So these are the city-states that you can work from. So at the minute it would be a random set of 2 of these I've got it set to, and you can see who these are, but you can turn ones off if you want. So you can say I only want these ones. That's entirely up to you. You can select natural wonders, so these are all the wonders that are available in the game, and they will be randomly generated. But if there's some that you don't want, you can turn them off, or you can have them all or none of them. So that's another thing you could do. You've got the world age, so you can have standard, old. So if it was old, there'd be less hills, mountains, and volcanoes. Hills and mountains tend to be great for production. Volcanoes don't tend to be good for too much, really. But there's things you can do. You've got the temperature side of things. You could have a standard map. You can have it cold, random. So that's going to vary up what sort of terrain you've got to work with. You've got rainfall, so we could have average woods, or we could go wet and we'd have more woods, rainforest and marsh, or random. And the sea level we can have as standard, high, or random as well. So lots of things we can change. You've then got these additional modes, which we talked a little bit about before, like the zombie defense mode. And the victory conditions. So by default, there are all these victory conditions that are on, but you can choose to have any of these off if you so wish. So if you want to go with them all, you can. But sometimes, some players, myself as well, I quite like doing the domination victory where I have to go and take over everyone's capitals. It's quite annoying if you're going through that and then all of a sudden somebody's going mad on the religious or the science side of things and they beat you. So if you're like, hey, let's level the playing field, if you're just interested in domination, you might turn the other ones off. You might want to keep score on just in case you get to the end and you haven't managed to achieve domination. You might still have a chance of winning with a score victory. So that brings us on to the limit turns. So if you leave it on the game speeds that were set up here, this is limited by game speed, and this means the game will end at 2050. And that's where this can be a problem, that if you don't have score victory on and you have only domination victory and you haven't achieved it by then, game ends and nobody wins. Whereas if you got the score, you might win it by that method. So it's kind of a good backup to have. You can also, as default, you have no duplicate civilizations, no duplicate leaders, but you can turn that off if you want to have multiple of the same one. You could do that. You can have no barbarians. Barbarians can be quite annoying in the game because they just randomly generate, and if you've not built up much of a military, they can wreak havoc on your civilization. So you can opt to have no barbarians if you want, which will make that a little bit easier. You can have no teams, so that disables team play. No tribal villages. I prefer to have those on. They're little villages that you randomly discover when you're scouting around with your units, and they will give you little perks, like could be gold, or it could be a unit for you, or some help towards discovering some scientific advancement, those sort of things. Team share visibility, so that's to do with being on the same team if you're going to be playing with other players as well. You've got the random seed, so this randomly generates a map each time we go. Now, if you mess around a lot with this and you go, I really like those rules, you can save that configuration for future use here. And you can also load those configurations here. So once you've set up everything that you're happy with, save it if you think, I don't want to lose that information. You can do that there. And that's it, my friends. When you're happy, you click Start Game, and the game will generate based on those things. So you can either go with those custom ones or go with the default ones here, entirely up to you. Love to know your thoughts on whether that was useful and what you go with on here. What's your favorite rule set? Are you a long-term player or a beginner? And was this useful to you? What would you like help with future videos? I know Civ 6 has been out a long time. I'm just coming back to it because I've added a PC to my tool set and thought I would come back to it because I do adore the Civ series. So I thought I would generate some videos based on it. So I hope this was useful to you. If it was, thumbs up please, much appreciated. Any comments welcome, and let me know what I can help with you in future. Thanks.